Shankar, thanks so much for your time.
Delighted to be here.
So tell us a bit more about your fund.
We are a private equity fund. As you said, we are focused on Africa, Middle East, South and Southeast Asia. We believe these markets are exceptionally attractive for the following reasons. One, demographics. 2/3 of the population under the age of 35. In Africa's case, it's 3/4 of the population under the age of 35. Second, they're also rapidly urbanizing. Just across that footprint, about 1 billion to 1.5 billion people will be urbanized over the next 20, 30 years. And when you have a young demographic and people are urbanizing, you will have a growth in consumption. And therefore, we believe a growth in manufacturing and services. Lastly, if you look at economic history over the last 2 decades, the biggest growth engine in the world has actually been the South-South trade and investment corridor. The trade between and across emerging markets has grown twice as fast as global trade over the last 20 years. And today, if you look at emerging markets, even today, more than half of the foreign direct investment which comes into these markets comes from other emerging markets.
For sure.
It's no longer the West investing into the East. It's the East investing into the East or the South investing into the South.
For sure, and we've seen this, particularly China, quite a big player here on the continent. But Shankar, $750 million, you were telling me earlier, the size of the fund.
Yes.
And you do have exposure to Dangote as one of the companies that you do invest in Africa. So tell us a little bit more about your investments.
We have 4 investments at this stage in Africa and 4 in Asia. All our investments fit that basic theme of investing into companies which cater to the basic needs of the growing and urbanizing population across our markets. We like to think of ourselves as people who invest into the bottom of the pyramid of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs: food, shelter, clothing, data. So Dangote Cement obviously fits that profile. The preeminent cement manufacturer on the continent, across 9 countries. We also have an investment in Liquid Telecom. The entrepreneur behind it is Strive Masiva. Again, a great entrepreneur. So we have the largest optical fiber infrastructure across Africa, including in South Africa, Neotel. We acquired Neotel, Liquid acquired Neotel. And then we have recently started a real estate development company for Africa, along with our partners from Grit and PIC and Prudential Insurance of US.
Oh, Grit and PIC.
Yes. So again, I mean, all these investments fit that thing of, what is it that Africa needs? It requires more, if we talk about infrastructure, that means more cement. Data today is as much like, I like to say bytes and bits are the same as biscuits today. Everybody needs data. And then real estate, again, I mean, there's a huge demand. But we have followed the same theme across Asia as well. One of our investments is in Indonesia, the largest convenience store chain across Indonesia, 14,500 stores, and still opening 3 to 5 a day. About 45% market share, because an average Indonesian goes and buys a 1 loaf of bread, 1 crate of egg. He's not an American driving an SUV going to a hypermarket and buying $300 worth of purchase. This fits that profile. In India, we've invested in a company, Mrs. Bector, which supplies buns to McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, and also produces biscuits both under its own brand as well as white labeling for people, including ShopRite in Africa. So these are the basic themes we drive at.
Interesting. So the buns there, I mean, how's growth looking at today? Is demand very high for the likes of your McDonald's and KFC?
Absolutely. I mean, the 1.2 billion mouths. I'm not, it's not like everybody needs to eat a bun every day, but there's obviously a growing need, consumption, food, very basic.
Yeah. You also have an exposure in Singapore there. You were telling me of a healthcare company. Tell me about that.
Yes. It's a company called Healthway Medical. We acquired it earlier this year. What it is the largest general practitioner and specialty clinic chain on the island of Singapore, we have close to 98 clinics. Singapore, aging demographic, also a huge focus by the government on preventive care and consultation. So we don't operate hospitals. We essentially have the doctors who will treat your basic stuff and then refer you to the hospitals as required.
And Shankar, apart from when you're looking at these companies, when you're making your investment selection, man, apart from dealing with what people need, when you assess a company and you look, okay, should I put my money in there or not? What other criteria do you look at that company?
Quality of management, very important. We typically don't do control and buyout transactions. We like to work with the entrepreneurs who are there. Our mantra is to make good companies better or great. So the level of trust in the entrepreneur is important, ability to work with our entrepreneur. But also we as a private equity fund, we have a limited life. So we also need to think about exit.
Right.
So are we aligned with the entrepreneur in terms of how we are going to exit? Also, when you look at funds in emerging markets, they suffer from two things. One is currency devaluation. You can make the greatest, or Nigeria or any number of places. Right. And the second factor is actually their inability to have exits. So when we look at investments, we look at, can we make the investment into companies which have got fundamentally a dollar flow? Or can we have it in instruments which are denominated in US dollars? Right. And then can we have alignment with the promoter in terms of exit, whatever form that may take. It may take the form of an IPO or a strategic sale or whatever. But I think that's what we look at. And we like companies which have fundamentally got a basic business which we can understand and cash flows. We don't pretend to understand a lot of the stuff which is going around in the technology bubble space.
So you're not delving in technology, Bitcoin or the blockchain associated company?
Not even personally.
Some might say you're losing out. It's at 14,000 today.
I know.
I mean, even Warren Buffett, I understand that he also changed his mind about the technology space.
Technology, I'm not against. In fact, I have a background. I have an undergrad in maths and physics, so I'm not exactly a dinosaur when it comes to technology. And I have been involved with a lot of technology companies in the past. There are certain types of technology, obviously, we would invest in. I mean, technology is required. I mean,
so
even
Apple, definitely.
Even in our basic businesses, we need to have application of technology to improve productivity and efficiency and process. It's not that. I'm talking about companies for which the business plan is on a napkin and the cash flows are going to be 6 years from now. And again, if you talked about Bitcoin, I haven't invested in Bitcoin, but do I believe that blockchain technology which underlies that has got a huge future? The answer is yes. Everything from shareholder registers to land registers to contracts to, there's a value in it.
All right, so just a last question. I mean, you are engaging with some South African companies. You mentioned the likes of Grit and the PIC. I mean, what's your view on our economy and where we're going? And what would it take to get more investments from yourselves and other business people? Like
First of all, indirectly, we are already exposed to the South African economy because Dangote has got cement plant here.
Oh yeah, through Sapaku, of course.
And Liquid Telecom, we have Neotel. And as I said, our company in India supplies biscuits to ShopRite. So we are exposed to South Africa indirectly through our investee companies. Look, me and my team, we love South Africa. We believe in South Africa. And we are always looking for the right opportunities here. Yes, there has been a certain degree of nervousness which has been introduced thanks to the politics and then the events that you were talking before the break, Steinhoff, doesn't help in terms of people association about the risks of South Africa. But we believe that the economy is at its heart is fundamentally sound. There is still a great future, and for the right opportunity, we are willing to bet.
And I'm sure the right price.
Absolutely. We are value buyers. We never participate in auctions.
Well, Shankar, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for your time. That was founding a partner and CEO of Gateway Partners.